Hello and welcome back to Buckle Up. I'm Harry King and this is a Ssangyong Rexton, and today I'm going to try and find out why it is £20,000 cheaper than a Land Rover Discovery. So I'll start by telling you a little bit more about the Rexton. It's actually very closely related to the Musso I've already reviewed on this channel. So it's a full ladder frame chassis, 3-row SUV. So you will see some similarities to the front, kind of the way the lights come around, stuff like that is similar to the Musso. But you get this grille, which is bigger and chromier than on the Musso or on basically any of its rivals. This is a facelift edition and it's a bit American. For me, personally, there's a lot of shininess going on here, but let's see what it's like around the side. Where, speaking of Americanness, I draw your attention to these large chrome wheels. Oh, the wheels are available. I would not pick these, but they're very, very blingy and a little bit 90s. However, let's address the elephant in the room, which is the elephant in this lay-by. This car is massive. Now, obviously, down to about here, it's broadly the same as the Musso, but then you get a boot, but you also get some more chrome or bright work around the place. It's very heavy on the chrome with this car, but then going around the back, we find the tow bar. This can tow 3.5 tons, brake trailer. So if you've got a horse box, this can also do it, just like a Disco can. 4-wheel drive, Ssangyong Rexton, and electric tailgate. And you are presented with the highest load floor I have ever seen in my life. You get this in the boot to make it a continuous load floor, because for the 7 seats they don't fold down into the floor, they actually just kind of sit in the boot, which means you get this thing and then the kind of a space underneath, a sort of miniature false floor, and then you do get your continuous load floor, and that does actually continue with all the seats folded down. But I think it would be better if it was engineered for the seats to go all the way into the boot floor. You also have some handy features in the boot, although they're mostly related to the rear seat passengers. So there's a 12-volt socket and a fan control, and you also have a little box on the side where you'll find your tyre goop and your inflator and stuff, because there's no spare wheel hidden about the place. But speaking of that third row of seats, shall we see if they're good for adults? Okay, so I'll start by showing you exactly how you climb into the rearmost seat. So there's actually a set of levers down here. The first one folds down the back of the seat, and then the second one pivots it forwards. There's not enough room for it to do that if the driver's seat is all the way back, which is slightly irritating. And then there's just a pull strap on the back of these. You lift it up, and there you go, you have a seat. You might need to fold this one down so the camera can see. So that's the usual climb through, although this car is quite tall, so you kind of rise up a bit as you get in, and then a long way back down again. And here's the thing.
There we go.
Ow. Yeah, so space in here, not ideal for taller adults. My foot is fully underneath this chair. I can't move it. My legs are jammed open in a man-spreading position in order to fit my legs in. The floor is far too high and my head's against the ceiling. However, for smaller adults, 5'5" and under, let's say, or children, there's plenty of space back here. And actually, the seats, as you can see, are nice and wide and comfortable. It's just there's not a lot of legroom, there's not a lot of headroom. But you do get your fan control down here in your 12-volt socket, and you've got some little cubbies as well. Although you do have quite limited windows all the way in the third row. So again, if you've got like car sick children, I'd say they want to go in the middle row, not all the way back here. Now, I want to get out of this as quickly as possible, so let's go to the middle row. Okay, so I'll climb into the second row, which is a much more comfortable experience than climbing all the way into the back. And we'll start here with the eye line. You've got some lovely window blinds for babies. Why do they have these? You've also got heated seats here on the doors. Lovely and toasty. Only on the outer seats though, not on the middle seat. The seats are lovely. They've got 4 different materials on them. So you've got this perforated leather styly thing. It might be real leather, I'm not sure. And then flat leather, and then also quilted leather, and then also some kind of suede Alan Cantara job going on. You also have, this is to be noted versus the Musso, a full 3-point middle rear seat belt. But speaking of the rear middle seat, you get this lovely wide armrest padded on the top, a little bit of storage, and in here, a mobile phone slot. Who doesn't love that? You also get Isofix on the outer seats, no covers to faff about with or anything like that. But the main thing, and the thing I usually start with, just lots of space. There's just a great amount of space in here. There's enough headroom for me, plenty of space there. The roof does come in a bit here for the sunroof in the front, but actually it's sculpted in over your head, so it's fine. As we know, these seats recline. You could really get wild with it if you want to, or sit back up again. Come on, get there eventually. And then you've got the usual practicalities. So seat back pockets, these are quite hard, so obviously they'll be kept safe from the clawing hands of toddlers, but if you're taller than me, it will be a bit painful against your knees. You've got a 12-volt socket down here and 2 USB ports, and you've also got some air vents, although there's no climate zone for the rear seats specifically. Also, the rear windows go all the way down, as they should, and there's lots of glass in here because it's a big boxy SUV, and the window line isn't too high either, so children will be happy in the second row. But would they be happy driving? I'm guessing not, but let's see if I am. Okay, so here we are in the front. I'm going to start by turning the ignition on, just so all the toys are ready, or not. There we go. Probably have less of that though. Okay. So a lot of bongs in this car all the time. The seats are, the materials are very similar to in the back, although obviously they're a little bit more sculpted. You've got actually quite a lot of side bolstering for what is not a very sporty car, and also, interestingly, a flat bottom steering wheel to tie into that over bolstered sportiness. Not a sporty car in any way. In general, the material quality in this vehicle is of a much higher standard than you would expect given its price point. So you've got this kind of double-stitched, cross-hatched Alcantara theme thing running through the whole of the dashboard, and then a bit of kind of interest contrast there. This bit's a soft touch, but this is hard plastic. Down here is hard plastic, and there's also some bits of hard plastic around the place. But all the touch points are very well done, so the steering wheel's nice, and the gear shifter's nice, armrests are good, the seats are good, everything that your legs touch on the doors or the side of the panel here, all excellent. And you do have all of the little touches you would want from a nice premium family transport vehicle. So you've got heated and cooled seats, you've got a heated steering wheel, you've got automatic headlights with auto high beam, automatic wipers, fully electric seats, passenger and driver. You've got a sunroof with a shade as well. You also have a gigantic sat-nav screen, which is pretty good actually. It's got inbuilt navigation. I do find the way that Ssangyong do their home screen a little bit confusing, because you press home and then it just makes it half nav and half radio. There's not actually a home screen. But of course, you will be using Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. If you're anything like me, that's on a plug. You have a wireless charger here, where you can put your phone when it's plugged in as well, although it does an irritating thing where it tells me my phone is a foreign object, and then that integrates very well with the screen as well. But you have lots of lovely physical buttons and shortcuts and things. All of the climate control down here is done with buttons that you push and press and spin, and it just works. It just works! You've also got some drive modes down here. So you've got power, eco and snow for your drive modes, and you've got your surround view cameras, very premium. So for example, you can see my assistant waving to you from various angles, that's very good to have a complete surround view camera, and you can pick any side of the vehicle. You have a wide view, you can have full range, you can have just lots and lots of cameras going on here. Stuff that you only just started getting in full on, like BMWs and Land Rovers and stuff, a couple of years ago, and now you get it on a Ssangyong for 2/3 of the price. You've also got quite a lot of cubby spaces, so you've got a really good large centre storage bin, lots of space in there, and a 12-volt socket in there as well. You've got your cup holders with a little hideable slot. There's also 2 USBs in there. There's a little hideable thing for your wireless charger as well if you don't want to be distracted by your phone while you're driving. There's a good sized glove box, although there's quite a lot of owner's manuals in it. And there's also good sized door bins which have like a double integrated bottle holder, so you can have your bottle sitting like straight up or angled forwards if it's like bigger and you need more space for it. They also hold the bottle as well. You don't have, here's the one thing you don't have that you can get on the rivals of this vehicle, is you don't have any kind of radar cruise control or auto steering. You just have trad cruise control, which I'm fine with, and all of that's on the steering wheel there, and you've got your usual stalks behind, and paddles if you want to engage sportiness and enjoy your D-shaped steering wheel. But let's see how sporty it really is and go for a drive. Okay, so driving the Ssangyong Rexton. Let's start with some basic stats. It's a 2.2 litre diesel engine with 202 horsepower. That is the only available powertrain in this country. There is a petrol available in other markets, 2 litre, 4-cylinder, and it's shared with the pickup truck, the Musso. So you might be concerned that it's not going to be particularly refined, and I'll be honest, it isn't as refined as an engine you would find in, say, a Mercedes-Benz, but considering its lineage, it's actually really rather good. For a thrummy 4-cylinder diesel, inside the cabin, it's only really audible under hard acceleration. Outside it's a bit more agricultural, but still well within the realms of acceptability. The driving position is excellent. It's the classic body on frame, so you're really raised up in the air and you've got a really good view down at the road, basically. And there's a good sized glass house. It could be a bit taller, and the roof maybe is slightly closer to my head than I would like, but there is a skylight here, and that might be why the roof is a little bit lower than I'd have thought looking at the size of the car. And the seats themselves are lovely. You feel it's that classic proper 4x4 thing where you just feel very much in control of the situation, because you kind of can look down and be imperious. All of the controls are pretty light. I can do the steering wheel with my fingers, and the brake and throttle follow suit. Obviously, this is a big car, a heavy car, and generally there's always a feeling of luxury with that and heavy assistance. So if you're looking for driver feel in your 3-row family SUV, I would maybe consider something like a BMW X5. But certainly anyone who's used to driving something like a Land Rover Discovery would feel pretty well at home in here. Obviously it's not a copy of a Land Rover or anything, but it's the similar sort of approach to how things are done in a car like this. There's a preference for practicality and space in here over sportiness and... Oh, shut up. You have lane departure warnings. There's a button to turn them off, but you do have to do it every time. But yeah, there's sort of a general feeling of just... This car's very easy to drive. Sitting on the motorway at 70 miles an hour, you're doing just over 1,500 RPM and it feels completely relaxed. I have no doubt this would be very, very good for doing very long distances in. However, in town, you do feel that ladder frame chassis. This does have a jiggle to it that you don't really get with modern SUVs anymore. I'm not bothered by it at all, but my colleagues have noted that they feel the suspension jiggles, which you've obviously you've got the ladder frame and then some bits of rubber and then the body on top of that, so it just adds to it. It's certainly nowhere near as jiggly as the Musso is, I guess because it's fully enclosed and the suspension's all set up for just having normal things in the car rather than, I don't know, a ton of bricks. We're coming up to a change in the speed limit, so I'll put my foot down and we'll see what the responsiveness of the 2.2 litre diesel engine is like. So foot down now. So there's a bit of a lag as you put your foot down, but there we go. I'm now at the desired speed. The pickup's actually pretty good after that initial lag. The turbo on this engine is massive, so I assume it's a turbo issue. It's not uncommon on diesel engines like this for there to be a little bit of lull on the pickup. You've got an 8-speed automatic box in here. It works very well. It's nice and smooth. It's not the snappiest changes in the world, but it's perfectly suited this kind of vehicle, and importantly, it is designed to take that 3.5 load that you are able to tow with this car. So it's, you know, it's fit for purpose as much as anything else. The thing I can't get over, let's address my question posed at the start of this video, is why is this 20 grand cheaper than a Land Rover Discovery? And let's be clear here. Number one, this is a nice car. It isn't as nice as a Land Rover Discovery. And two, this has a proper four-wheel drive system. It does not have terrain response. It will not go as far off-road as a Land Rover product will when driven correctly. However, it will still go further off-road than basically any other three-row SUV that's available, barring maybe the Toyota Land Cruiser. And it is still very nice in here, and somehow it's £20,000 cheaper, like for like, or better than that. So this one, I mean, right now, at the time of filming, is £45,000. And this is all options ticked: heated seats, cooled seats, heated steering wheel, auto everything, cruise control, sunroof, all of the stuff is on this, and it's 45. A £45,000 Land Rover, you'd be getting a Disco Sport and a pretty sparsely spec'd one. The Discos start from 57, and you'd have to spend quite a lot of money on a Land Rover Discovery before you got this level of equipment. You'd be looking at more than £65,000, and it boggles my mind a little bit, because then there's just no other rivals. Not like for like rivals. The closest thing I can find as a rival for this is the Skoda Kodiaq, which with 7 seats and all-wheel drive ends up being about the same price across the specs as this is, but that's a much smaller car and a very different proposition indeed. And I don't understand why these aren't more popular. Now, with that being said, let's talk about some of the drawbacks. So this is very nice in here, lots of space. That does mean on the outside it's massive. This is one of the biggest cars you can buy, and the biggest one that Ssangyong makes. And it is a struggle if you're on a narrower country lane or in a multi-storey car park. You have to really think about getting it through those situations. It is still possible. It's not so big that you can't drive somewhere. And the other downsides are you can see in some places where there have been savings made. The boot could be better engineered. Having a false floor to make it flat that's 3 feet in the air isn't the best solution to the problem. Having seats where you need 2 hands to fold them up and down in a 7-seat family vehicle isn't the best solution. There are hard plastics, but I'm looking at all of that stuff and I'm going, it doesn't add up to 20 grand. I just can't make it add up to 20 grand. And you're not losing a lot from the driving experience on road compared to something like a Land Rover. You still get the good driving position, all the controls are light, you've got the 4-wheel drive system, you've got a really great view. What's not to like? I really like this. And it does tick nearly all the boxes for things I like in a car. I like a 4-wheel drive system. I like loads of space and practicality. I like things like a heated steering wheel. It's all grand, it's all great. The gauge cluster has loads of functionality, so you can change the screens a bunch. It'll tell you your awareness level, which basically tells you how long you've been driving. But also, the thing I really like is you can have the sat-nav screen in the gauge cluster, like you get with Audi's virtual cockpit, for example. But what Audi would you be in if you'd spent 38 grand?
An A1.
Yeah, a nice A1.
Nowadays.
Or like a mid-level A3, maybe.
Yeah.
Mid to lower level A3. Because that's the other thing, is you might... Yeah, it's telling me the car's in front of me. You might be thinking, 45 grand, that's an expensive car, Harry. But if you've not been looking at cars recently, the inflation, recent inflation, thanks Liz, plus the change in interest rates, has made both buying a car outright and PCPing a car drastically more expensive than it was 6 months ago. Right, well, they're probably nattered on it enough, so shall we go and conclude? Okay, so the Ssangyong Rexton. Why is it 20 grand cheaper than a Land Rover Discovery? Probably because Land Rover's ripping you off, honestly. Should you buy one? If you want an off-road capable 7-seat SUV, this is it. Go and buy this car. You're not going to get better value than this. And yes, I know the boot could be done better, and it's not the most intuitive thing with the rear seats, but 20 grand. Think of all the things you could do with 20 grand. You could buy a pre-made shed. So yes, I mean honestly, if in any way you are interested in this vehicle, go and test drive it. You will be pleasantly surprised. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. You'll find the links to all of our social medias down in the description. You'll also find 3 ways to support the channel. We have a merch store. We can buy cool hoodies like this. We have channel memberships, and we have Patreon, and you can give thanks, which feels weird because it's just you giving us money, and I don't really feel comfortable asking for that. But if you want to do it, thank you. And otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.